has actively spearheaded their flagship child sponsorship program. Today, HCI operates the program in over 15 different countries. HCI is one of the first organizations offering sponsorship assistance to the children of Yemeni and Rohingya communities. The goal is the same: provide for the child in body, mind, and soul. HCI works closely with local partners to supply food, security, clean water, medical care, and school necessities. And most importantly, despite difficulty, natural disasters and conflicts, offering children a chance to live normal lives. With zero administrative fees for sponsoring a child, you can see whom you will be benefiting, complete with an annual report on the child's progress. We can all work together to make a world of change. Human Concern International, working to change our world.
Dr. Munir, he was born in Beirut, Lebanon in 1955.
No, you don't have to say that one.
What was that, Sheikh?
You don't have to say that one.
Oh, you don't have to say That's too much.
There's a typo. There's a typo. It's 1985.
Oh, 1985. Because 55 would be too. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. He was educated at Al-Maqasid Islamic Institute, where the foundation of his Islamic knowledge was established. He was a top student to be admitted to the pre-medicine program at the American University of Beirut. He is married, mashallah, and blessed with 5 daughters and 1 son. Following his migration to Canada, he continued his studies at Western University, okay, that's close by, earning a master's degree in medical genetics, therefore joining the University of Toronto to graduate as a dental surgeon in 1986, mashallah. After spending 50 years in general practice, he joined Western University as an assistant professor at the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. Now, you might be thinking, mashallah, this is all science. Where does the Islam kick in? Well, here it is, guys, here it is. Since his arrival in Canada in 1976, Dr. El Kassam has been very actively involved in Islamic da'wah. He has visited a large number of Muslim communities across Canada, the Caribbean, and the United States. He has also participated in interfaith dialogue and appeared on numerous radio and TV programs. Dr. El Kassam has helped numerous Muslim communities fundraise for mosques. I was a witness to one, Islamic schools, and humanitarian projects all over the world. He is recognized as a passionate speaker, youth leadership trainer, and a family counselor and marriage officer. There is hardly a weekend, mashallah, where he is free. But alhamdulillah, we found one. We found one. And it was today. Doctor, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, man?
Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. You just made me wonder whether this is me or you're talking to someone else. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us.
Habibi. Habibi. Sheikh, what are we going to talk about today? What's the topic, Sheikh?
The title is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from orphanhood to prophethood.
MashaAllah. And guys, this is such an important topic because at HCI, we do a lot of orphan care. When it comes to our orphan care, 100% of your money goes towards the orphans. There is no admin cost. That's the one thing that we have that goes 100% to the orphans. So you can sponsor an orphan, you can support the orphan. And inshallah, today, the talk by Dr. Munir will inspire you and encourage you and motivate you to take action, inshallah. So Sheikh, I will leave it to you. Enjoy, have fun, and keep it halal, inshallah.
Okay, Habibi. This is number 4. Yes. Stay with me because you are inspiring.
Yeah, Habibi.
Okay. So I start, inshallah, with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Okay, حبيبي. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him and we thank Him and we ask Him for help and guidance. He who is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be taken astray by anyone. And he who is allowed by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be misguided cannot and will not be brought back to guidance by anyone on the face of this earth. I bear witness that there is no deity to be worshipped but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and his last messenger, sent as a true guidance to humankind. so that we could follow his example at all times, all places, and under all circumstances. My dear Hassan, and through you, everyone else, I want to start with a real story. And sometimes it's important to say it's a real story so that people don't assume it's one of those fairy tales or those fantasies that people put together in order to spiritually anesthetize the listeners. This is a story that I read in the annals of the history of Damascus. And, just to put some credential to this, you see, my wife is Syrian, and, my father is Syrian. I was born in Lebanon. So I'm really interested in the history of that landscape. And the story is about the Locust Invasion that took place throughout the Middle East in 1920, 2 years after the end of the First World War. And the story is about farmers in a suburb of Damascus called Daraya. And they tell of one farmer, despite all the other farms being consumed completely by the locust invasion and destroyed just to bare branches, his farm right in the middle kept lush green. It was growing, it was producing fruit. It was so people assumed that he has a kind of a secret insecticide that he was using and not sharing with others so that he can dominate the market. So what they did, they basically told the French authorities in those days, and they came and they wanted to investigate, and they interrogated him, and he said, Wallahi, I don't use any insecticide. They said, you must be doing something. You have to tell us what it is. He said, I'm not doing anything that others cannot do. So they asked him, what is it that you are doing? He said to them that I didn't want to make it public, but you forced me now because I don't want my family to be hurt. So he told them, he said, I'm assuming, again, I cannot confirm it, but I'm assuming because I have about 100 orphans that I am sponsoring. I give them all that they need. I look after their families, and I do that between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said, this is nonsense. That you know how the French are. They didn't accept it. So they wanted to test his theory. They brought baskets or bags of locusts, and they threw it throughout his farm. And they witnessed that those locusts just jumped away to the borders of his farm, and they left. They wouldn't stay inside. They repeated that. It didn't happen. So this is a story that is registered about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the wealth, as per the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there are 4 things that the people who give sadaqah or charity, look after orphans, look after poor people, look after those who are in need, Allah protects their wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make them accepted by other people in the community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect them from crises. And fourth, and the most important, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect them from the hellfire. So this is, I thought I will start by mentioning this story, and please allow me to share another story that I lived myself. I came to Canada in 1976, 3 years after the civil war started in Lebanon. And I heard and witnessed our neighbor, who was in our apartment building, had a small shop at a market in downtown Beirut called Souk Sursuk. And in Souk Sursuk, he had a textile shop, and it so happened that fierce fighting erupted one night and the entire market was put ablaze, and it was just rubble. The next morning, people went to just find out what was left of what they owned, and they found basically that everything was destroyed. This man, our neighbor, sifted through where he marked where his shop would be located. He found that the door, it's a metal door that they used to have. He cut the lock and he opened it, and he found that everything was intact. It just happened that the shelves had fallen to the ground. He collected everything there, rented a truck, brought everything, and he opened a small stall in our neighborhood to continue his business, and he wasn't affected at all. And I am a witness that this man also was a benevolent, charitable person who looked after orphans, and he always gave with his right hand what his left hand did not know. I am mentioning this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, in a surah called Surah Al-Balad, which started with an oath. And we know that in the Quran, 14 places, 14 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made an oath by something. And in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made an oath by Mecca. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد. Al-Balad is one of the names of Mecca al-Mukarramah. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after making that oath, he went on to tell us eventually about a kind of a race. And this race actually is very common nowadays, called hurdles race. I don't know if you have seen in Olympics, they have hurdles, 10 of them, and there are people who are competing with each other, and they have to go over the hurdles one after the other, and they cannot touch any of the hurdles. They cannot make it fall, otherwise they will disqualify. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this hurdles race by saying, فَلَقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةِ. Now, al-aqaba is the hurdle, and he's talking about those humans who are shy of going over hurdles. And he's telling us that if a person wants to go through this race, then the aqaba, those hurdles, are made of فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة أولئك أصحاب الميمنة. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us first that the most difficult hurdle is for humans, for believers, to feed the destitute, the poor. But he mentions before them the yatim, yatiman dha maqraba. If and this is a qualification of orphan, if you have a yatim in your extended family and you just say it's not my responsibility, why should I care, let the government take care of him or them or her or whatever. And we know many extended families that suffer from this kind of selfishness, this kind of cruelty. And those people fall under the category that was mentioned in Surah Yasin, people just basically being so arrogant and saying, أَنُطْعِمُ مَنْ لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ, that why should we really bother to feed someone? Had God so wished, he would have fed them. Why should I be responsible? I'm taking care of my family, but please don't ask me anymore. Well, unfortunately, we are living on a planet where social systems, anthropological systems, political systems, citizenship systems require that we live in communities, and communities are divided into families, and families really cannot live alone. We have to support one another. We have to really help each other. And here I say that if the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to have some people continue their passage of life towards Him in the akhirah, meaning that they die before others, leaving little children. You know, sometimes we hear stories and we use, I know that, Hassan now is going to have a smile on his face because I'm going to use the word that people unintentionally, they say when they see this, haram, شو ذنب الأطفال, as if to say that this word haram, that God committed an offense, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, told us in the Quran that He established a system that He called دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لفسدت الأرض. That had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not put us in such a way that we need one another, then we will be corrupt, and we are already corrupt. We are living at times when corruption had spread through land and sea. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when telling us about that possibility of corruption spreading over land and in the seas, over the oceans, He told us that in the past tense, even though it was revealed 1400 years ago. He told us that ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر, that corruption appeared all over land and in the sea. Okay, بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wallahi, He loves us in things that we consider are the worst things that ever could happen. Nobody likes to see, a father, or sometimes a father and a mother dying, or a mother dying and leaving children who need them at an age that is so critical for them. We saw that in Syria, we saw that in Yemen, we saw that sometimes imposed on people, as we saw among the Rohingyas, where parents were separated from their children. We even saw that, and this is where my heart broke, because a country that claims to be at the height of civilization, stopped people from entering the southern borders of the United States and separated parents from their children, put the children in a simulated cage. There were human rights activists who went and visited those cages, those concentration camps, where those they call them illegal immigrants, were kept, and their children were separated from them, and the children were crying. These are aitam while their parents are still alive, because we made them as such. And you know, this is something so important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it in the Quran. Can you guess how many times? 21 times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about al-aitam, about orphans. And you know, it is our responsibility, and I say it, that any person who even remotely assumes that I have enough you know, at my hands, that I cannot add any more to me, I say, think again, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He did not want us to move and be shaken, He wouldn't test us by allowing more orphans to be produced on, shall I say, monthly basis? No. Shall I say on a week? I'll say on a day, on an hourly basis. There are more orphans produced because of our corruption, because of our insensitivities, because of our political arrogance, because of you know, living life in such a way that it's me, and then after me, I don't care what happens. You know, my father used to mention a saying in slang Arabic, "Min ba'd hmari ma yumbut hashish," meaning that after my donkey grazes and eats its fill, I don't care whether grass will grow or not. You know, it's my donkey that really matters. You know, this is selfishness. And if, you know, wallahi, I should say wallahi, why am I saying that? You know, but I will say with faith confidence, with imani confidence, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need HCI. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need any of those charitable organizations, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired some people to be His junood. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ جُنُودَ رَبِّكَ إِلَّا هُ. That, you know, you can never imagine who the elements of service that are divinely inspired in order to do the work that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be done. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He gives some people the ability to give, He is calling them the upper hand, al-yad al-ulya. And when He makes some people receive, He is calling them al-yad al-sufla. And yes, you know, al-yad al-ulya khayrun min al-yad al-sufla, as Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, that the upper hand is better than the receiving hand, but there is goodness in both of them. And we should really understand that it is not a favor that we are doing those aitam. You know, if we are doing aitam a favor, then why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make His Habib Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a yatim? You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I can't say it on purpose because I don't understand the divine planning, but I'm observing that, you know, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not meet his father. His father died before he was born, and he did not get to know his mother because the first few years of his life he was sent to the countryside to be nursed by Halima Sa'diyya in the countryside. So that it was a tradition in Mecca that, you know, children are sent, or infants are sent, and we know, and this is something that shows how the social fabric is still the same in those days and today. You know, in those days, all the different nurses that came from the countryside to Mecca looking for babies to take with them. Every time one of them will come to where Muhammad was at his grandfather's house, and after they ask, who's the father, and they are told, they have to be told, all the facts about the baby. Once they would know that he was an orphan, they would decline. They would, say, thank you, but no thank you. And then they will leave until Halima al-Sa'diyya just fell in love with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she took him. But that shows you that people don't really empathize. They don't have that feeling that very few people really have. And I say very few people without exaggerating, because now we know that those who give, those who really think that it is important, now more than before, because we are going through a crisis, that it is now more important to give and help the orphans more than we did in 2019, more than we did in 2018, because now we know, as the hadith that I mentioned earlier, about the 4 things that the sadaqah will do. And number 3, sadaqah will shield us, will deliver us from crises, from al-ibtila, and from bala. And everybody now says, we are going through a pandemic that we don't know when we are going to come out of it, or whether I'll be the next one or the next victim. And is this conspiracy? And people, because they really are thinking of everything except the divine connection. And this is very important now, at least for us believers, without imposing over others, to think and share and outreach with the divine connection. Let us really think that God is tapping us on the shoulder. It's like we've been going at 150 kilometers an hour in the passing lane on the highway, not thinking of those who are driving on our side, whether it's the right or the left. If we are in the middle lane, we are just thinking about the adrenaline rush that we are feeling, and we are so excited. This is how we've been living our lives. We've been, consuming until we made, what you call that company that its CEO is the God, he's the wealthiest man in the world.
Bill Gates?
No. There's a company that, oh my.
Apple?
No. They you can order anything through them.
Amazon.
Yeah. You know something, why Amazon became what it became, and its CEO is the wealthiest man in the planet now, on the face of the earth. It's because of our consumer mentality. We want to get and buy, and so, an intelligent man who discovered that people want to get something, so established a system that will deliver what they want in 24 hours. Sometimes you order it in the morning, you get it late at night. It's just people want to get. But when it comes to looking after the social fabric, and looking after those who really are produced all over the world, we say, no, I'm living in beautiful Canada. Why should I worry about the highest rate of aitam produced in Yemen? I mean, they brought it to themselves, and they start talking politics, about this and about that. And, charity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, does not want politics to interfere with charities. So our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given a promise in a surah that was revealed after a cessation of revelation. After Iqra Bismi Rabbika Alladhi Khalaq, there, some scholars say about 2.5 years, others say longer than that, shorter than that, doesn't matter. But anyway, it came after Iqra, after the first revelation, and he was told, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى, again, another oath. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ, Ya Muhammad, your Lord did not forsake you. You are an orphan, yes, you are alone, yes. ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى. The ending will be better than the beginning. And this is something that is general for all of us, that, we should always try to strive to have the khatima, the end of everything, whether the end of our school, whether the end of our professional career, whether the end of our lives, whether we would like to have it better. And so the elements is, look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. You were an orphan, so Ya Muhammad, you should be careful that if you encounter or if you know of a yatim, you should always reach out and give. And that is why, I always ask, people ask me in Canada, do you know anybody who is really worthy of our sadaqah and this? And I always tell them of those charitable organizations. And you said that, HCI, since I arrived in Canada, there was HCI. It is the oldest, most experienced, most, versatile, especially in helping aitam. And, this is something, I this morning, we had a kind of a family talk, and one of my daughters was asking, Baba, why is it that we cannot sponsor a yatim and have him come and live with us? So I said, it's not that we cannot, adoption is not allowed without a control. We have to control by telling that yatim who the biological parents are and where they came from, because every racial genetic makeup has its special pluses and minuses. So if someone, let's say, comes from the Middle East, we know that thalassemia genes are prevalent there. So we have to be careful when they get married that they don't marry someone with another thalassemia gene, so that we protect them. And the best thing that HCI is doing is that it is keeping the aitam right there and going to them, because the best way to help the yatama, to help the orphans, is to keep them in their environment and provide for them. Provide the schooling, provide medical care, provide nourishment, provide means for them to live decently without being exposed to the elements, without having rain leak into their hasir, into their straw mats that they sleep on. Today we know that we want the best, the most comfortable mattress, and if the pillow becomes after 3 months not suitable, we want to buy another one. So who do we call? Who do we call, Hassan?
Who do we call for a new pillow?
Amazon.
Amazon, that's right. one day delivery, one day.
Yes. No, but honestly, it's okay. It's okay to smile if you really, your heart is where it belongs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If ma'alish, if I establish a conversation with you, Hassan,
Habibi, yes.
if I ask you, what's uh, uh, the worst thing that a person can do to separate him from Islam or from Iman or from Deen. You know, if you want to describe somebody who has lost it, he's not a good Muslim anymore, what's number one that he would stop doing?
Praying.
I knew that you would say that.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're not alone. I've asked this question of so many people, and they gave me, you know, if they stop prayer, because they, you know, tie it with the hadith that بين الإنسان والكفر أو بين المسلم والكفر ترك الصلاة.
Mm.
That between Islam and denial of faith is abandonment of salat.
صح.
However, we are not talking about denial of faith. We are talking, okay, about someone who completely shuns off any relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Atheist, no?
Yes, but even those who actively fight Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you remember a short surah in the Quran, you know that I know that as a small child, they taught me this surah with other small surahs, and I kept repeating, and the teachers say, repeat after me, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين? Consider him or her who actively shuns anything to do with deen. Then who is that person, Ya Allah? Number one, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ. Number one. Number one, it is him or her who would turn a blind eye. I don't want to even hear about it. Don't tell me about HCI. You know, what is this live stream about? It's about talking about helping the yatama. It's called, or just, I have better things to do. Don't talk to me about it. فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي, look at this, يَدُعُ. And the Arabic يَدُعُ means actively dismissing أيتام. فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين, does not even encourage others to help, to give. ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. Number three, Hassan,
فويل
like you said,
للمصلين.
فويل للمصلين. فويل للمصلين. We are not finished. Listen to this. فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون. Again, number five, ويمنعون الماعون. Back to where we started. Those who, you know, keep amassing their wealth and they don't want to help others. You know, we are now going through a tunnel, and yes, I know that you know, Mr. Kenny in Alberta, Mr. Ford in Ontario, our dear Prime Minister are worried about the economy, and they are saying we will gradually open up and we will have certain you know, non-essential businesses open slowly, and they started in Manitoba and they will follow in you know, other provinces. And in San Diego, they went to the streets in revolt. They said, you know, we don't care about our health anymore. Why? Because people assume that you know, now we are going to reverse you know, this pandemic, this crisis. And I want to go back to what I mentioned about 20 minutes ago, that the most guaranteed way, wallahi, before I say that, let me mention this. You know, if you get something and you find out who the manufacturer is, and something goes wrong with that thing, that is something is wrong with it, wouldn't you go to the manufacturer and try to find out what the manufacturer recommends? And again, Hassan, I'm you know, putting you as my scapegoat and, punching board.
You're killing me. You're killing me, Sheikh.
I want to ask you, who made the COVID-19?
Who made the COVID-19?
Yes.
I don't know.
I know why you're hesitating, because if you would say God, people would say, God is so cruel.
صح,
Why did
صح,
he do that?
صح.
Why? Some people say it is a conspiracy. It was made in a lab in Wuhan.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, it's. But I would like to submit that nothing, good or bad, may pass in this life, in this universe, without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you agree?
صح, yeah. He has to allow it. He has
Not
to give it permission, yeah?
وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That nothing will come to pass without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of this, whether it's a human conspiracy, whether it is something that resulted in many people dying, and by the way, there's something that we don't understand, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna kulla shay'in khalaqnahu biqadar, that there's something that we don't understand as humans that is called balance, that sometimes we lose certain things, or certain things happen to us to establish balance in this universe. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed this virus that is created through divine systems to exert its effect on humans, to learn. We just said it, لِيُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا, so that we learn our lesson. Come back. You've been going so fast on the highway. If the cops did not stop somebody driving 150, 160, he would have killed so many people. And sometimes it happens. So thank God for a cop who gives $1,000 ticket to somebody speeding like that. Thank God that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala slowed us down and brought us back to our retreat, to our kahf, to our cave, so that we have a chance to re-examine our lives, to find out where we were heading. So I would like to just wrap it up and say that now that we are having time to reflect and understand, the only way that we will be able, and I say it with confidence, not with darwasha. Darwasha in Arabic, meaning people say that those people who always say God, 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 everything God, just look at 1 + 1 = 2, as if 1 + 1 = 2 was not made by God. God made everything, okay? And I'm a firm believer in that. And it is tested throughout human history that when people submit and said that, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, verily we belong to God and unto him we are returning, and that we reconcile with the one who put everything, and we stop polluting our earth. Look at the pictures from NASA. NASA now is producing pictures of our planet that are so crisp. You know why? Because those factories that were exuding toxic fumes into the atmosphere are not functioning anymore. That's why the earth is breathing again. That's why some animals will have a chance to survive. That's why, we really need to re-examine how economies, who would ever think that an oil tank would sell for -$37, that you have to pay the consumer $37 in order to give them your oil because there's no place for it to be stored. Economies were turned upside down because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to put things in perspective. And the thing in perspective is to follow the recipe of the scriptures, especially the final, message to humankind, Al-Quran Al-Kareem, whereby in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clearly, وَأَنفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ فيقول رب لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصلي no فأصوم no فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين. It is a fictitious scenario. I say fictitious because to us it still did not happen, but it is for people who are on the other side of the fence, that is, they already died and they discovered the value of what sadaqah means, okay, that they would like to go back and do more and more and more and give, because they found when they crossed the line, ولن يعني يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. Okay, that once you cross the line, you cannot go back. It is irreversible. So finally, I would urge everybody, who is listening to us to stop considering that helping the Aitam through HCI, that you said, Hassan, at the beginning, there is no administrative cost. It's just 100%. So now if you just give $100, the $100, you know what they will do in Yemen? You know what they will do in Gaza, in Palestine, in Lebanon, that is now basically people don't find money to buy one tomato. One tomato. I heard some families, they wanted a tomato to make a salad. They didn't have enough because the dollar is eating up the Lebanese money. So if I continue, I will not be able to stop. So I will just stop here to say, help the orphans before it is too late, either by having the orphans spread all over the world, or before we will be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we will be asked about every penny that we could have helped someone in need and we did not do it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sheikh. Barakallah feek, mashallah. What a beautiful talk. Sheikh, we have a few questions for you before we wrap up. Are you ready for that?
Absolutely, I'm ready.
Habibi, this is a common, I think, difficulty for everybody. So there are people that want to give, they want to donate, but they find it very hard to. Like, it's just, it's, I guess, even in itself, you say nothing happens without the will of Allah, whether it's good or bad. This in itself, this action of someone donating money, if they are having a hard time doing that, what should they do? What's the cause of that? What's the solution?
You see, some people have it inside them that they don't like to part with anything that becomes theirs. They earn $1, they even don't want to spend it on their families. They'd rather spend it on something personal that is making their lungs black than to buy something good for their son or daughter, or to some people spend millions of dollars on their haram, listen to this, okay, not halal, haram pleasures of theirs, shaitani pleasures, than to use this money that could really eliminate poverty in villages and towns. So what can they do? The same, I would say, they need spiritual therapy. They need to understand that they will not take this money with them to the hereafter. Some people are working hard and amassing money, not for themselves. They are doing it for the people who will inherit the money from them, and they will just spread it right and left. So I would say, think of where you're going, be smart, understand that, you know, 3% of the world's population own 75% of the wealth of this planet. Did you hear me right?
Yeah.
3% own 75% of the global wealth. I want to say to the average person like you and me, is this right?
Yeah.
You know, if these people are amassing the wealth and they are not sharing it with me and you, okay, shouldn't I, by example, share what I have with those who have absolutely nothing?
Yeah.
They should think. They should really look at the news. They should, you know, consider that this is not for you. This is, you know, for other people.
Mm. And Sheikh, just correct me if I'm wrong. I heard this as well, is that, you know, in order for someone to do a good deed, Allah has to inspire them to do the good deed. So if someone is struggling to do something good, then they have to look back at what they're doing, the sins that they're doing, the good deeds that they're doing, and maybe they need to cut down on some of the sinning, and maybe increase on, even if it's little good deeds, that will allow them to be greater in the eyes of Allah, so that He can allow them to give and get the reward for giving.
There are
Um,
there are two kinds of people. Some
yeah.
people who put blindfolds, they don't want to listen, they don't want to hear. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in two places of the Quran, in Surah Al-Kahf and in Surah Al-Sajda, almost the same ayah. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ فَأَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا. In Surah Al-Sajda, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا. Who is worse in offense than a person who is reminded of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says and turns a blind eye, doesn't want to listen. So this is one category. So there are people, even if you remind them, okay, these people, Allah says, okay, وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, if that's what you want, okay, you have to face the consequences. You have to really earn what you wanted to earn, and that is bad. Okay, and others, you know, by speaking with them, by softening their hearts, by, you know, then there is lots of good that may come out of that. Absolutely.
MashaAllah. And Sheikh, like for someone that does donate, what is, you know, they say that you don't lose money or you don't get poor from donating.
Yes.
Is so in a time of Ramadan right now, is there extra barakah in helping, in donating?
You know, I mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made an oath 14 times in the Quran. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his entire life, he made an oath only 3 times. One of those 3 times, he made an oath, he said, مَا نَقُصَ مَالٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ. That wealth never depreciates because of giving charity. Never. Okay. And this is, you know, remember the story that I mentioned at the beginning of our live stream? The man that I experienced, our neighbor in Beirut, Lebanon.
Yeah.
You know, he went to his shop and he found everything intact, and everyone else around him, okay, had lost everything. You know, look, this is an example. You know, if that doesn't say it, okay, that he did not lose anything. On the contrary, others who used to put in their bank accounts, you know, hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars, they lost everything overnight. And you know, now in this COVID-19 crisis, there are many people who are saying, oh no, I lost it, that's it, my job, my this, my that. Except a person, wallahi, and you will see it, the people who are connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. You know, the person who is righteous, connects with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will find a way for him or her out and will provide for them from hence they never expected. Wallahi, it is as true as you are seeing me and I'm seeing you. Okay, so I would say let the people know, especially in Ramadan, especially during a time of ibtila, trial and tribulation, especially when we are connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they have to have that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be satisfied with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is Allah in 4 ayat in the Quran, the same ayah repeated 4 times. Okay, رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah is satisfied with them, and so are they. They are satisfied with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Subhanallah, Sheikh. I have one more for you. This way we make it sunnah, because 3 is sunnah, right?
Inshallah.
Odd number, Sheikh. You have to come on.
No problem, no problem.
There's a hadith, Sheikh, Doctor, about the Prophet with, you say, if you take care of an orphan and he puts his fingers together. You know, yeah. Can you explain that? Can you explain that?
أنا وكافل اليتيم كهاتين. And he pointed to his 2 fingers. He said, I and the sponsor of the orphan are that close. And in order to demonstrate that, he put his 2 fingers together because, you know, it's difficult to separate them. You know, they have to be close. He said, you know, if you are a sponsor of a yatim, then you and I are that close, and we will be close in Jannah. Imagine. Allah, sometimes I just dream, Ya Allah, if I will be next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Jannah. I'm sure that you dream about that. You know, and you know, the easy way is for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to recognize that you are sponsoring aytam and giving sadaqah and you know, in your salat, and perhaps we can, you know, finish it with this if you don't have another question. In your salat, don't we say اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم. And in Surah Al-Ahzab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي. Okay, that Allah, His angels, make salawat, they invoke blessings on the Nabi, on Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه. We are asked to make invoke blessings on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, do you know that the Prophet himself invokes blessings on you and me? Now, I want to ask you, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam invokes blessings in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on you, would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turn him down? Turn Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam down? So basically, if he will do that, you are a winner. You are a winner, that's it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us exactly that in the Quran. He says, addressing Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ. He says, take, Ya Muhammad, collect from them, enjoin upon them to give sadaqah, to purify them, and to make them complete in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and invoke blessings on them as a result of giving that charity, because your invocation of the blessings is a kind of tranquility for them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ. So imagine if somebody now, you know, listening to us or not listening to us, or who will really hear this message afterwards, will reach out and give charity and send it to the aitam, send it to the poor, send it to the destitute, then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will invoke blessings on that person, and that's it. She or he is a winner. It's a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Sheikh, Jazakallah khair. I really appreciate the talk. Honestly, you've inspired me. I think you've inspired all the viewers. We had a lot of viewers, some great questions, people really interested in donating and wanting to give, and just the whole idea behind it, and how to get started on it, because it is difficult for some, and a lot of people, like you said, they make the money, they bring in the money, and it's very hard for them to give it away, and they're okay with using it to buy a car, or to buy this or to buy that, but to give it, it's a whole different story. And I think it's something that people need to start with, step by step. Give small amounts, slowly increase. Just like anything in life, you have to slowly build into it. And maybe if you've never donated before, you have to start small and then slowly, inshallah, build on that. Remember, the Prophet said, the best of these are those that are consistent, yet.
Yes, even though they are.
There you go. There you go, Doctor.
Yes,
So I want to thank you for joining us today, Habibi. I hope to see you in person again after Corona is done. And and inshallah, thank you to everybody watching. We'll see you guys on our next.
I have to say what I said before, that you are one of the best MCs I've encountered in my 43 years that I've been doing this.
No, Habibi.
MashaAllah Ali. Your smile, your presence, your interaction is exceptional.
Habibi Bakal, mashallah. Wallah, you made me so happy, man. I'm going to have a good sleep tonight, man. A great sleep. Thank you so much. Barakallah feek. And again, it was a pleasure sharing this with you, Habibi. And inshallah, we meet in person again. And thank you, everybody watching. Thank you, Sheikh. And thank you, Allah, for allowing this to happen. And inshallah, we see everybody next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Dear Hamza, you don't know me, but like you, my name is also Hamza. I now live in Canada with my beautiful wife Iman, but like you, I lost everything I knew to war. Like you, I am an orphan. I'm writing to you because I want you to know that you are not alone. Today, I made a pledge to do everything in my power to make sure that you are healthy and can go to school by supporting Human Concern International, a wonderful organization that has been empowering orphans like you and I for over 30 years. In return, I only ask that you never forget what you went through.
And when you have the opportunity to help someone else, take on that responsibility. Stand together and hold strong. May Allah protect you and keep you safe always. Ameen.
Ameen.